A very warm welcome, crafters, to my channel, Lisa Horton Crafts. I've been doing a little look in my stash and looking at some of the products that I don't often use. You know, as a business owner and as the developer of these products, I find myself not getting the chance to use stuff. And I find I put it in a drawer, I move on to the next thing, and I forget what I've got. And today I've been going through all of my products and thinking, oh, do you know what? I just haven't used that for so long, and I'd really like to get that out, give another go with that, and do something a bit different. So I'm doing a series of videos where I'm kind of recapping on not old products, but products that have been out, you know, maybe from the date of this video, maybe 6 months, a year ago, maybe even 18 months ago, and looking at how some of these work without inks. So today I'm going to look at it's such a cool embossing folder and layering stencil. It's our sea coral. Now, our sea coral is really lovely. This is a 5x7 folder, and it comes with the layering stencils as well. And I thought today, if we look at maybe mixing it up a bit. So I did a video the other day where I used coloured cardstock as like coloured. When I say coloured, I mean different colours, mix of colours, cardstock using one of our rose folders. But I thought maybe today we could use the sea coral and do something a bit similar. But I'm going to try something. Now, this is what I'm trying along with you. I'm going to use my anthracite ink pad. Now, if you don't know anything about my anthracite ink pad, you need this in your life. It looks like it's black, but it isn't. If you press really hard and you go really heavy on the color, you can get it to be almost black, but it's not. It kind of has a tinge of a blue to it, or a tinge of a green to it. It's got lots of different facets to it. And if you put white underneath, it gives you another feel. It's just got such a unique look to it. And when you lay the color down, you look at it and you go, oh, that wasn't what I expected. So I want to try and do a little bit of that today. And I might even bring in maybe a white with it. I'll have a look in my drawer, see what I've got, and we'll have a little play together and see what happens. So I'm quite close up on camera for now, but we've got the anthracite there. I'm actually literally, as we are talking, I'm going to bring in my Ultimate tool, which is what we're going to be using today. Pop that here. That's going to play havoc with your eyes for a minute, so I will make sure I put something on top of that. And then I'm going to bring in the opaque white. I have got that. Now, this is a slow drying pigment ink. It's a stunning ink. If you're looking to do your white paint splats, that's your ink. If you're looking for solid white stamping, that's your ink. If you want to use it with black card, as I said, that is your ink. I'll show you that very briefly on black card. And I'm going to bring in some white card. No, actually, no, I'm not going to bring in white card. I'm going to bring in this same pad again. So you can see my brain working as we're talking. So I'm going to bring in my splash of colour pad. I will zoom out on the camera a little bit when we get to demo. But I feel like it will be super nice to use some under the sea colours. Now, when we say splash of colour here, what I mean by that is you've got colour, and then I've actually mixed the paper up a little bit, and then you have a solid colour in between. Colour, and then you get a solid colour in between. Again, that one should be there. Let's pop that in there. And then we kind of got that sea corally colour there. We got some greens, we got some purples, but I do feel that might be quite nice, but I also feel that there was a one under here, which was more blues and greens, which might fit the bill as well. That's quite nice, isn't it? Choices, and decisions. I'm trying to think about my anthracite and what that would work best. I feel this is going to be the one to work. We're going to do a couple of things, something a little bit different, but we're going to be using both of these inks. We're actually going to be using our layering stencils. I'm going to emboss it as well, just so you can see how beautiful it is. I'm going to show you the opaque on the black card, but most of the work will be done on the almost like an ombre paint splash effect card. First thing I'll do is I will emboss this for you. I'm going to pull the camera out just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to move this to one side and I'm going to bring in our die cutting machine. I'll pop you on camera 3 for this so you can see it a lot easier. Pop this just like so. So we're going to need our base plate. And it will come through the other side in a second and you'll see. We're going to need our B plate. No, we're not. We're going to need our adapter plate, which is our F plate. And we're going to need our adapter plate, which is D for adapter. And that is going to be the grey plate, okay? So what I'm going to do is just run this through, just so you get an idea of how beautiful this folder is. So let's use a piece of white card. Now, the piece of white card really isn't big enough, but it's going to give you a little look at the folder and some of the detail that's in it. Now, the folder is actually a 5x7 folder, and you'll see here you get a ton of detail in there. And I'm going to just run this through just so you can see white on white. White on white is always good. White on white is a great thing for kind of TV, actually, for when I do TV. It gives you, it's a really difficult thing to emboss and show on TV. So if I can get it to work on TV, it shows that you've got a really good product. I'm going to run that through. It goes through just like a dream. Pop that down here and let me take these plates away. And I'll move the machine out of the way for now. And I'll flick you to camera 4, which is a lot easier for you to see. And you'll see in a moment, if I bring that up for you, the depth of the emboss that you get. So let me do it like so. So you can hold it up and see, or you can see, you know, these are absolutely bursting off the page, these coral pieces. And you've got a lot of detail at the bottom here. So on the back, actually, it shows it quite well too. So there's your deboss side, and that's your emboss. So if you want to emboss it and use it like so, you absolutely can. You could use that on colour cardstock and sand that back. That would look really cool as well. However, what we're doing today is not that. We're going to be using black and white cardstock, sorry, black and white ink, colour cardstock, and the layering stencils. Okay, so I'm using my Ultimate today. Now you'll find me kind of bringing it closer to me because the plan is to zoom you in a little bit more so you can see all the detail going on here. Let me first of all talk to you about the anthracite and the opaque white. What you need to make sure is, particularly for that opaque white, you have a fresh brush. Now I'm going to get a brand new brush. Actually, no, I have got a small brush here which has got white on it. I'm actually going to use this brush. So for the white, this is a pigment ink. It's an opaque pigment ink. It's stunning. It's so white. It's ridiculous. I absolutely love it. It's on a foam base. So you're going to get a lot of ink on here. You can see now straight away, it's white. It literally is white. So when I hold that up to you, you can see now you have a white ink. You can, if you want it less white, you can blend it. You can literally, you know, take a brush and blend it out if you want to. But if you want to use it as a solid white, you absolutely can. It's definitely opaque. It's definitely going to be great for your techniques. But the beautiful thing about an opaque white is once it's dry, you can go over the top with colour. So I can go over the top with my anthracite and it will make the card appear that it was white underneath, if that makes sense. But I'll show you as we go along. Now, anthracite, I'm going to let you see it as it happens, kind of thing. Now, I do need a bigger brush for the white because I'm going to be using it in the background. So we're now going to bring in our stencils. and we are going to show you exactly how these work. So I'm going to open these up for you. These are the layering stencils for sea coral. Now, our stencils are ridiculously detailed. If you need 10, I will give you 10. If you need 5, I'll give you 5. I'll give you whatever you need to do the best job, okay? All of our stencils are always numbered. I don't know if you're going to pick it up. Yeah, there it is. There's number 1 at the top in the middle for you. And this one goes all the way through to, let me see if I can get that light for you. Hang on. Oh, where is it here? It's right by my finger. Number 10. So you've got 10 stencils, but it's quick and easy. And the process is easy. Now, I tend to turn my ultimate to an angle. You find me moving it all around the desk all the time. You do have a colour chart on the front, but these kind of things, I just go with the flow and just see what happens. I do know that some of the colours are going to be not necessarily what you would normally find on coral, but we're just going to go for it and see what happens. So I'm going to decide, because we know that the sea coral is going to, this is the top, number 1 here. So this is the top of the folder. So I need to be this way. No, I need to be this way because I want the blue at the bottom. Okay. So I will turn my card like so. So my blue is at the bottom because when I turn this around, let's not make this complicated. I turn it this way and I put stencil number 1 on here. I'm now using this area, which is the blue. If you want to chop that off so you can move it up a little bit, you can absolutely do that. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Now this is blue. I like this being blue. So what I'm going to do is, that's not a good brush. That's had, I can see that's had a metallic on it. So we cannot use that brush. We do not want to ever contaminate metallics with blending inks. It's not good. So I'm also going to bring in a piece of white card because we need to do some kind of tapping off. So I'll leave all of this here for you. Move the stencils to one side. We've got stencil number 1. Let's bring in anthracite. Now I want the tiniest amount of anthracite ever. So I find the best way of doing that is by bringing in some white first. So I'm going to take the white opaque and I'm literally going to place the white opaque over the top of the blue. And I'm going to lift it off and show you in a second. I'm going to pop that here as well, because we're going to be putting the first layer of anthracite down over the top of this. So move that out of the way, and I'm hoping the camera will be able to pick this up. It might not yet, but I think you might be able to see just down here and here some of that white. I'm hoping you can. It's just a tiny piece here. I don't really want to put too much more ink on there, but I can see it. But there's definitely white on here. But as I say, I've put the tiniest amount on. And now I want to use the anthracite. And again, you can see one tap, and we want nearly all of that off. So I'm going to bring my black card in here. I'm going to wipe almost all of it off, okay? And then I'm going to go over the top. Can you see that? If you don't want to contaminate your opaque with your blending, just give your brush a wipe off or give your stencil a wipe off if you prefer to do that. But for I've made a big mess already. But for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to give you as much detail as I can. So here we go. So that's your first layer. I am going to get a cloth and wipe my fingers simply because I'm going to get this ink everywhere. And because it's a water reactive ink, I will end up with splodges on the card where I don't want them, and that will really disappoint me. I may have ink on the edge of my ink pad potentially, which might have caused that, but just be aware, anthracite, ridiculously powerful and ridiculously juicy. So I'm going to lift that off now. And now you can see that colour. But I've used anthracite, which is an almost black ink. So we're going to come in with stencil 2. And we'll look at our packaging. And I can see it's the background of the little sea urchins, I think they are. And a little bit of pink. It's all the pink areas. So I'm going to move that out of the way. I'm just going to use what's left on here. And I'm going to see what I've got. I might turn this around and see where it takes us. And we'll lift that off again. Trying to make sure I've got no ink on my fingers. I think I have. I'm going to end up with ink somewhere, I'm sure. So now you can start to see you've got different tones coming through. Okay. So we're just sticking with anthracite and white. And now we've got number 3, which is this beautiful big piece in the background here. Now what I feel is I do need some white. Just make sure you cover what you need. Now, what I would do next is I would take that cloth I had and give it a little wipe around the edge, simply because it's so wet. The opaque, I'm worried that it's gonna, because it's a lot of it, it's gonna contaminate the brush and stop the ink from spreading so well on the blending area. So we're now going to come back with that anthracite, and I've still got some in the lid. I really have. So I am going to now come into the edges, and I'm going to go over the top of this gorgeous white. I might need to pop some more ink on. I'm trying to take a lot off as well, and I actually will dab off on here. You can see how much ink is there. And we'll come in again, just around these edges, and we'll slowly blend out. Pick that ink up again, and around the edge here. And we'll leave a little piece in the middle to be lighter. Just around here. There you go. We'll lift that off. And you see that already. How ridiculously cool does that look? I mean, it's so clever. So we'll pop the lid back on again. I keep popping the lid back on because, as I say, ink will end up everywhere because it is so rich. And now we're on stencil 4. That's going quite quickly already. And I can see here, we're going to come in over the top of some of the colour that's already there. And then we're going to be doing a small piece under here. So again, let's start with that white. Keep that cloth to hand in these yellow areas. And in this area here. I don't need to do it in these two because we've already had white on there. And we'll pop some white here. Okay. And again, we're going to wipe off because what we don't want to happen is we contaminate, as I said before. So take that ink off there, just around the edges. I mean, if you don't mind, it's fine. But I know my anthracite will kind of resist, or the brush won't work as well. So bring that back in again. I'm going to clean that off my brush because I can see the reason I'm getting ink everywhere because there was actually ink on the brush and then it went to my fingers, and every time I cleaned my fingers I couldn't get rid of it because it was on the brush. I've done it again. I really shouldn't be allowed out on my own, you know. So again, what we can do, take it off the lid. Coming in here. Tap it off here. It's so dark. There you go. You can go dark there. And then we'll come around here lightly. And on this one really lightly. And that will look almost green. And this one here just needs the edges because it's already blue. And we're going to take some of that ink so we don't waste that. It looks very ethereal, doesn't it? And then we'll come in with the next stencil, which has got a lot of detail on it. A lot. So that is clearly all of the pink here. This circle here and down here. Some of these pieces up here. So let's see how we deal with that. Now, I am going to use, I'm not going to come in with any white at the moment. I'm going to do some of these blue pieces. But we're going to do that thing where we go off the edge and we come in. And then we come around. Off the edge. Come in. And go around. We'll come into this piece as well. Take some of that ink off. Again. Come around the edge. Just keep that colour gentle. And on this piece as well, I'm actually just going to go over the top on that piece. Grab that ink because nothing's been there before, so we're not trying to layer. Down here, let's take some of that ink, wipe off again. Oh, that's quite dark. Now, I don't mind that because this can be dark. And I'm going to do this circle and I'm coming into the edge. I'm going to go around it. I'm going to go around the circle. Yeah. But I'm going to come back in one side dark. Okay. Blend it a little bit, but coming one side dark. This side's dark, that side's not. Here in this circle, you could change your brushes up as well. Again, same thing, but I'm holding it closer to the tip to get a heavier layer. And I'll take some of this ink from up here and I'll come in again. A little bit darker on one side, as much as I can. These two pieces here, all down here, these are really going to be quite light because they've got yellow underneath them. And I'm happy with that. It's a little colour here. I'm going to grab some of that and I'm going to come into this blue down here, which I don't think has had much colour on it either. So we'll keep those like so. And then we're going to come into this big piece in the middle. So anthracite, you can see at the moment, it's not very black, is it? So what we're going to do now is we're going to come in here and we're going to come in darker. You can see I didn't tap off. I'm just going to grab that ink so we can bring this to life. Okay, all the way down here. You can see, you can kind of see how it almost gets to be black, but not quite. So before I take that off, I've got my messy cloth. You see that ink, how that moves on your fingers. Take it away, clean your hands. This is why I tend to do pastels quite often, because I get so messy, you don't notice the colour on your fingers. Okay, so I'm going to lift that one off now, leave everything there. I mean, wow, wow. Let's come in with the next stencil. You can see how this is building up now. Now, let me check. There's nothing on my brush, so I don't make a mess again. And again, I'm going to come in dark straight away. I'm not worrying now. I'm just going to cover some of these. I can come back if I'm not happy and have a look. Oh, that looks great, I think. It's looking really, really great. So this is such a different way of using your stencils. Now, here, this is where I kind of want to get some different tones, because I know the next stencils are all going to be, can you see that? They're all going to be different parts of the coral. So I feel now we could, because this is going to be at the foreground, we're going to go in heavy. But can you see why all of my stencils are on separate layers? We always do this because it just gives you the ability to have the freedom to do things like this. That looks like a tree. That you could use these as almost like vintage trees, couldn't you? And again here. So what I'll do on the next layer, bring the white, keep it away from anything else, like my fingers, and then we'll pop the white down and we'll put the blue over the top. There we are. And again, in theory, I should give that a little wipe off, but I think we should be all right. Actually, I might wipe off at the bottom, just at the bottom, because there's a lot of white there. There we go. And we'll flick colour up now. Just in all these areas. This is going to look super pretty. You lift that one off. Completely different colour. So you've got the light against the dark. And now we get into the main piece. Now, because I've got the white on there, I'm just going to tap just to make sure the white is dry before we end up putting a big piece of plastic over the top of it. I am going to look at this one and decide this one's going to be darker. This one's going to be a little bit lighter, I think. So we're going to take our brush and we'll go over lightly first. She says, if you can get some of that ink off of there. And we're going to go around all the areas without adding white. And we'll bring in the colour, we'll drag it down, just hold up here. Now I am going to get messy fingers, but this is a big wide open space, so I want to be really careful. Yeah, I've managed to get messy already. So again, I'm going to put that ink here, and there's some quite loose pieces, so you need to just around here, just kind of drag rather than go in circles, because you'll move these little delicate pieces. But we don't need to be too heavy because you've got a lighter colour underneath. So you're still going to get this beautiful finish. So let's lift that up. See that in the background? I feel like I need a little bit of more colour. I didn't know if I would, but I'd rather like add it than take it away. I'd rather add it because you can't take it away if you put too much on. Some areas will be heavier than others because they've got a darker base. So like this is a bit greener and yellower, where this side it's a bit bluer and darker colours. So we might have to add a little bit more. There we go. That's going to be better already. So I'm doing just around here, just down here. I think that might give me a little bit of a heavier look. Now that's better. That's much better. And then the final one is the heavy one. So now we go in heavy. So we're going to do this. We're not going to worry about this one at all. We're just going to go straight in. And this is where it could be perceived as being black. It isn't, but it could be perceived to be. Can you see the blues and the greens in it? It's a crazy colour. It's very, very unique. And it does have a re-inker as well, which is a great idea. And there we are. That's all 10 stencils. Now, before I do anything, I am going to wipe my fingers because I do not want to get this all over that beautiful artwork. So let's lift the stencil off. I mean, how crazy is that? I mean, you could go back with some of the stencils and decide you want to go a bit darker in some areas. So for example, this one here, you could look and go, well, you know what, stencil number 5, I'd like you a bit heavier. So let's bring the brush back in and go, yeah, look at this. I'd like that much darker down here. Doesn't have to be, but I'm just giving you an example here. So you could come in much darker here if you wanted to. Or maybe, where's the black? Where's the anthracite ink? Just grab that. And maybe here we want to go a little bit darker, which would kind of tie in with the last layer. And then a little bit down here. So you have really now got freedom of choice now how you play with this. So as I said, I cleaned my fingers and now I've made it messy again. So I think we will lift that one off. Number 5. Look at that. How crazy is that? So now what we're going to do is we're going to trim this down. You could emboss this. I'm not going to. I just think it's just stunning as it is. And what I will make sure again is I'm going to take a piece of card. Actually, I'll take this piece of white card here and I'm going to tap all over it and make sure there is no more ink that's wet. Because what I don't want to do is use my trimmer and then I contaminate underneath my trimmer, which can quite easily, I can see there is quite a bit of ink on there. And I'll bring my trimmer in. And hopefully you can see why I've done it on the colour cardstock now. So I'm actually going to trim off, like I'm going to kind of push some of it so it's off to the edge. If you see what I mean. So let me just, I probably can't show you, but you can see I've taken off some of the artwork across here. Bring that down. Bring that along a little bit. So it all kind of looks like it's off the page. And you might say, well, I don't really like those colours, but you can absolutely do this in any colours you like. I love that. I'm going to pop that just like so. Take quite a bit off of that side. Now look at that. I mean, that almost looks like a spooky forest, doesn't it? And all we've done is use a piece of card and our layering stencils. Let's turn those here. And let's bring in some black card and just show you what it would look like if we layer it up. How super cool is that? So let's just trim that piece down. Actually, let's glue that on first. Here we go. Just run that through your trimmer and make that nice and even. Not perfect, but it gives you an idea what you can do. I'll trim that side down a little bit. That's a little bit too wide. There we go. And I will move all of this out of the way and just show you. And I'll bring the camera in slightly. I think it's really nice to see. All of that detail. So now you've got this gorgeous background. We haven't even embossed this. We've done nothing to it. It looks very under the sea. I mean, if you take off that piece as well, it could be a spooky forest, definitely. But just a different way of using your layering stencils. So we literally used 2 ink, just those 2 inks, this beautiful, beautiful set. which is called Sea Coral. You can get, as I say, you can also get the embossing folder, so you can imagine how beautiful it would look if you did it on the embossing folder as well. So you could still do the colours, but just do it on the embossing folder too. So there you go. That is today's video. Just a little something different, so you could see how you can use your existing stock or your existing products you've got in your stash. That is the Sea Coral on our Splash of Colour cardstock. I must bring that in as well for you. For our Splash of Colour cardstock, using our Anthracite ink, which I adore, absolutely adore, and using our Opaque White, which is another beautiful, beautiful